আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট।
সৌজন্যে মাহবুব এন্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking with our distinguished guest today, Mr. Abdul Chowdhury. He has held very high places in Bangladesh government. He was Director General of Land Records and Survey and of Rural Development Academy in Bogra, and Director and probably founder of Narcotics Control.
Well, in a sense, I was the Director General in the President's Secretariat with the responsibility to draft a law for narcotics control in Bangladesh, which I did. Then I was given the responsibility to set up the department, and I was the first director. And this is a very unusual, I consider an unusual honor to be able to get involved in the drafting of the law, setting up of the department, and then heading the department for 1 year. So a total of about 2.5 years I spent that.
When you were Director of Land Records and Surveys, and even those days people were talking about modernization measures, see. Have we really adopted some modern system to get access to the records, or are we still living in the past?
We are still living in the old system, and in fact in 1989 the then government of President Ershad, he appointed a committee. I was appointed chairman of the committee to give recommendations about abolition of departments which are not needed, merger of departments, and similar other
streamlining the thing.
Streamlining. So it goes by the name of Mouyeed committee. So I submitted that report, and in that report for the first time I suggested to the government that the present system of land registration and land record maintenance, which is still continuing, is separate. Registration is done independent of the maintenance, and the records are maintained by the system is AC Land and Deputy Commissioner's office. So I suggested that this separation of the function creates serious problems of reconciliation of titles and things like that. And so this should be merged into one department, number one. And number two, the process of the registration document was using archaic language and all gibberish for nothing. So this should be simplified into a form we suggested, simply name of the buyer, seller, and certain other information, so that it can be filled up by anyone and you don't need a deed writer.
Right.
And when I submitted the report and President Ershad received it, he was very excited about it, but subsequently for some reason he didn't implement it. Later, during the caretaker government of 1990, when Justice Shahabuddin was the acting president, Professor Rahman Subhan, as planning advisor, he set up several committees in various areas of the government. And so there was a committee where I was a member, and Professor Muazzam Hussain of Agriculture University Mymensingh, he was the convener of that committee. And in that committee also again we recommended the same thing, because everyone wanted that my recommendation and concept should be done, introduced. So we again recommended that same thing, nothing happened. Then in the last caretaker government led by Dr. Fakhruddin, there was a regulatory reforms commission, and Dr. Akbar Ali Khan, my classmate and friend and batchmate, was the chairman of the commission, and I was also a member of that commission. So this commission again discussed the same topic, and a subcommittee was formed with me as the convener, and we again gave a recommendation to change the system, modernize it, because we have this handwritten manuscripts printed of course now, and there's lot of problem. You see, in fact, when I first said this, I had said that 70% of criminal and civil litigations in Bangladesh owe their origin to land disputes created by the record keeping system, and it can be sorted out. We have given a very clear recommendation through the Regulatory Reforms Commission. I was very surprised, in fact last week Mr. Maidul Islam, MP from Kurigram, he is I think the chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee for Land. He called me and said that we know the land minister has been talking to me, and he asked me to find out from you your recommendations. So I said these recommendations are already with the government, but if you need I can always come and assist you. The recommendation was very simple, that it should be done, it should be computerized.
Right.
And all the existing records should be scanned, preserved, and this should be done by appointing private sector contractors under supervision of the government.
It can be outsourced.
Precisely, this is what and most important thing is that land records should be paid for. People would be willing to pay for the record. So the cost can be recovered from the people, and government need not spend its own money or go to the donors to seek money, which will only complicate things. And it's a very simple thing, it can be done, and I believe it can. In fact, the land ministry were doing some work, and there was a couple of years back, and they had a meeting and they invited me. So I said, well, we are doing it okay, but then if you do it like this, then it will take at least 70 to 80 years. So what is modernization if it takes 70 years? So we should do something which can be done in 5 to maximum 10 years.
If we are talking about digital Bangladesh, then it should be implemented.
It should be done, it can be done.
And as you said that most of the litigations and the cases pending in our courts are related to land disputes, you see, and there are not hundreds and thousands, but there are hundreds of thousands of cases.
Hundreds of thousands. Another element which, Mr. Ahmed, I don't know if you know it, is that in these land disputes, the poorer people suffer because the rich and powerful, they occupy somebody's land and says, all right, fight the case.
Yep.
I engage the best lawyer and I'll take you to the appellate division all the way from the lowest court.
And they can appoint people to look after their...
Yes, yes. And so as a result, poor people lose out very seriously in this, and this is why there's a serious equity issue in land disputes.
As somebody jokingly said, they don't make lands anymore, so it's always
in the records,
in great demand. See,
yes.
I had asked a similar question to one of the gentlemen who was land minister then, Rashid Musharraf. See,
yes, Mr.
When do you intend to computerize the whole thing? And he said that you come from abroad, and I start thinking that you live in London, so everything will be computerized. It will take ages.
No, there's no reason for it.
Because he was a politician, so he had to please so many small gods, and he said, oh, it will take time, we are improved.
No, I'll tell you that I was land secretary in 1994 for 1 year, and I had already convinced the then Prime Minister, and I'd started a project to launch this digitization process, and but unfortunately before I could actually launch it, I was moved to the food ministry because there was a serious food crisis in 1995, and so once I moved, that initiative was shelved. It was not taken forward because it is in the interest of many people to continue to nurture this cancer, if I can call it.
Yeah, it will bring in more patients to the clinic.
Yes, that's right.
Your very interesting assignment at narcotics control. Narcotics still continue to be one of the scourge of our society.
Yes, absolutely.
We have tablets and, well, talking about clinics, we have tablets and syrups available in the country, and they say that they come from outside or whether they're produced inside. How best do you think the government can develop a system to combat it, and how best the civil society can help the government?
In narcotics, like many other social evils, you see, awareness creation and education is the most important thing. And the Narcotics Control Act that was, I was involved in drafting, and that was passed by the President Shah's government, and the department was set up. For the first time in the law, we see treatment of patients a hospital was set up, and awareness building. We had started talking about including it in the curriculum so that children learn it from the very beginning. Because Bangladesh unfortunately is situated geographically with the narcotics triangles and crescents all around, and our enforcement system was not up to the mark, and as a result deliveries of narcotics consignments were made in Bangladesh from India and other countries in the region. And I still remember we were working at that time in collaboration with the British and the American narcotics control offices in their embassies, and one day the concerned officer for the US embassy came to me to my house and said that, Mr. Chowdhury, we have received information that a consignment will be delivered to Dhaka. The buyer has already made arrangements in India and the consignment will be delivered in Dhaka. And so I called my very small outfit that we had, and I told them to immediately start. And we did arrest a person called Mr. Innocent, an African, a Nigerian I think. He was ultimately apprehended with the consignment, but the real suppliers couldn't be apprehended. It was a cloak and dagger. To cut a long story short, we did arrest this person, but we didn't get those who had actually brought the consignment. So this was a situation.
But you did get the consignment.
Yeah, because of this information that we had, because we didn't have that much of intelligence gathering capacity. So the information came from the US embassy, from their office in Delhi, and so we acted on that. So this is as a transit route, but now along with that, what has happened is various kinds of new narcotic products have been developed.
Right.
And some of these are being produced in India in the bordering areas, cough syrup type of things.
I understand there are 350 factories all around the border.
All around the border, and so that has become really, and now in the urban areas, particularly in Dhaka city, as I read in the newspaper reports, that narcotics has become a serious menace, and something which was not there in the 80s. Only in the government sector we had set up a hospital in Tezgaon, but now there are private facilities and even foreign collaboration centers have been set up because it has become a serious problem. And the interesting thing is that narcotics related problems in better off families is equally prominent, poor as well as well-off families.
It is the trend because they have got everything.
Yes.
So they try something new for the kick.
That's right. That's right.
And they, once they have become addicted,
that's right.
The access to such tablets or drinks,
various kinds of drugs are being.
It's not difficult.
Yes, that's right.
I would like to ask you about, probably you would know more than anybody else, that sometimes we hear that tons of gold and hundreds of tablets or these diskettes of golds were apprehended, seized. We'll talk about that later, inshallah, when we come back after this break. Thank you for being with us. We need to take a break, and when we come back, we will have this very interesting question answered by our guest today. Thank you.
আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট।
সৌজন্যে মাহবুব এন্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।